In 1902, 12 healthy young men sat down to a luxurious three-course meal in a Washington basement. But every single dish served on their table contained a measured dose of deadly poison. They were not prisoners, nor were they victims of sinister crime. They were government clerks who had willingly volunteered to be poisoned for 5 grueling years. This secret dining table will become the battlefield for one of the most dangerous experiments in American history. To understand why these men risked their lives, we must step back into the Gilded Age of the late 19th century. America was expanding at a dizzying pace. Cities swelled, factories boomed, and the nation's food supply shifted from local family farms to massive industrial processors. But there was a terrifying problem. In 1900, the food industry operated without a single federal law regulating what went into consumer products. To maximize profits and conceal spoilage, food manufacturers used industrial chemicals with complete impunity. Rancid meat was washed with borax to eliminate foul stenches. Sour milk was spiked with formaldehyde to mask rotting smells. Bright copper sulfate gave wilted canned vegetables a fresh green color, while toxic lead arsenic brightened cheap candies sold to children. Millions of ordinary citizens were unknowingly consuming toxic chemicals every day, leading to widespread chronic illness and mysterious deaths. Enter Dr. Harvey Washington Wiley, a visionary chemist and the chief of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Bureau of Chemistry. Wiley saw the devastating human toll of unregulated additives and knew that warnings alone would never stop powerful syndicates. He needed indisputable scientific proof. In late 1902, Dr. Wiley launched an unprecedented human trial. He called for 12 healthy young men to join a specialized dining club. The press quickly gave this brave group a terrifying moniker, the Poison Squad. The rules were strict. The volunteers took a solemn oath to eat only the food prepared in Wiley's basement kitchen at the Department of Agriculture. Every morning, their weight, body temperature, pulse, and organ functions were meticulously recorded by medical assistants. At first, the meals tasted delicious, but hidden inside butter, milk, or meat rations were gelatin capsules filled with pure borax powder. As the days passed, Wiley systematically increased the chemical dosage. Soon, the volunteers began to suffer severe physical reactions. Severe headaches, violent stomach cramps, nausea, and kidney stress struck the dining hall. Yet, despite suffering terribly, not a single man quit. Once borax proved toxic, Wiley moved on to test salicylic acid, sodium sulfite, copper sulfate, and the dreaded formaldehyde. Every single chemical tested yielded the same tragic result: systemic physical breakdown. Wiley's detailed ledgers filled up with irrefutable medical evidence. But as word of the trials leaked out, powerful corporate food syndicates fought back with furious intensity. Food manufacturers launched a campaign to discredit Dr. Wiley, labeling him a mad scientist and pressuring politicians to fire him immediately. Congress, heavily influenced by industrial lobbyists, repeatedly blocked Wiley's proposed food safety legislation year after year. Yet the Poison Squad continued their daily ordeal, enduring persistent internal strain to ensure their medical data remained flawless. Then, in early 1906, a major breaking point completely turned the tide of public opinion. Author Upton Sinclair published The Jungle, exposing the horrific, unsanitary horrors inside Chicago's massive meatpacking plants. Outraged citizens flooded Washington with letters, demanding immediate protection, as Wiley's scientific reports proved Sinclair's revelations were true. President Theodore Roosevelt read both Sinclair's novel and Dr. Wiley's Poison Squad data. He realized the nation was facing a public health catastrophe. Defying the powerful corporate lobby, Roosevelt threw his full presidential authority behind Wiley's scientific crusade. On June 30th, 1906, after years of fierce political warfare, President Roosevelt signed the landmark Pure Food and Drug Act into law. For the first time in history, mislabeling food became illegal, toxic chemical preservatives were banned, and mandatory ingredient labeling was enforced. Wiley's Bureau of Chemistry eventually evolved into the modern agency known today as the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. The 5-year experiment finally came to an end. The 12 young volunteers returned to their normal lives, their health permanently impacted by the toxins ingested. They received no financial rewards or public medals for their self-sacrifice, and their names gradually faded from mainstream history books. Yet, every single time we read a food label today, we owe our safety to 12 forgotten young men who sat in a basement dining room and swallowed poison so that millions could live,